A message popped up from an unknown number. Ask him where he was last night before you say, "I do." The church bells rang softly under the warm summer sun. Emily Carter stood at the edge of the aisle, her white dress glowing like fresh snow. Friends and family filled the pews, their faces lit with smiles and tears of joy. She looked at Michael, the man she thought was her forever. His blue eyes shone as he waited at the altar, handsome in his navy suit. Emily's heart beat fast. This was everything she had dreamed of. The flowers, the music, the promise of love. She felt like the luckiest woman alive. The ceremony began. Words of love and commitment floated through the air as they said their vows. For better or worse, in sickness and in health. As the pastor pronounced them, husband and wife, Emily's phone, tucked in her maid of honor's purse, buzzed softly. Nobody noticed. Later, at the reception, Emily finally checked her phone. A message popped up from an unknown number. Ask him where he was last night before you say forever. Her smile froze. She looked at Michael laughing with his groomsmen across the room. Her chest tightened. Who would send this on her wedding day? And what did it mean? Emily pushed the thought aside, telling herself it was probably some sick joke. Today was too perfect for doubts. But somewhere deep down, a small seed of fear began to grow. The first 3 months of marriage were blissful. Emily loved cooking dinner with Michael, watching movies and talking about future kids. He was charming, attentive, everything she wanted. But then it started. Michael began taking phone calls late at night. At first it was work. At least that's what he said. He was a sales manager, so sometimes clients called after hours. Emily believed him, but the calls grew longer. Sometimes he stepped outside to talk. Other times he would leave the room entirely, speaking in a low voice so she couldn't hear. One night, around midnight, she woke up to find him whispering in the living room. "Michael?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. He jumped, startled, before hanging up quickly. "It was work," he said again. "Go back to bed." But Emily couldn't sleep. The voice inside her, the one that had read that mysterious text on their wedding day, began to whisper again. Something's wrong. Weeks passed. The late night calls didn't stop. Michael grew distant, distracted, often staring at his phone with a frown. One afternoon, while doing laundry, Emily accidentally knocked over his briefcase. Papers scattered everywhere, along with his tablet. As she picked it up, the screen lit up and her world stopped. There was a photo of Michael, smiling with another woman. The woman was beautiful, standing close to him like they shared a secret. The photo wasn't old. Emily could tell by the clothes he was wearing. It was taken recently. Her hands shook as she stared at the screen. Who was this woman? Emily's mind swirled with questions. She felt the room spinning. That night, she said nothing. She waited, watching Michael, her heart pounding in her chest. But deep inside, she knew this wasn't just about phone calls anymore. This was bigger, and she was about to find out how deep the lies really went. The house was dark except for the small lamp on the side table. Emily sat at the kitchen counter, the photo she had found still in her trembling hands. Her heart pounded like a drum as she waited. She didn't even hear the front door open until Michael's voice cut through the silence. "Emily, why are you sitting in the dark?" She turned, her eyes red. "Who is she, Michael?" Her voice cracked like thin ice breaking underfoot. She held up the photo, the image shaking in her hand. Michael froze, his face drained of color. "Where did you get that? That's all you have to say?" Emily shouted, her anger breaking through the fear in her chest. "This is why you've been coming home late. Why you've been whispering on the phone at night." Michael grabbed his jacket from the chair. "You don't understand." "Then help me understand," she screamed. But Michael didn't. He slammed the door behind him, leaving Emily standing in the kitchen with her tears running down her cheeks, the photo still burning in her hand. 2 days passed with no word from Michael. The house felt empty, like all the air had been sucked out. Emily barely ate. She barely slept. On the 3rd day, while picking up the mail from the porch, she saw an envelope with no name, no return address. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter. It read, "Emily, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Michael and it wasn't supposed to happen. But he told me things about your marriage, things you deserve to know." Her breath caught. The letter went on to say that Michael had been hiding money, taking trips he never told her about. The other woman, her name was Claire, claimed she didn't know he was married at first. By the time Emily finished reading, the truth felt like a weight crushing her chest. This wasn't just a photo. This was a whole life she didn't know about. The next morning, Emily stood on the porch watching the sun rise. Her eyes were swollen, but there was something new inside her. A small spark she hadn't felt before. She called her sister, Anna. "I need to talk to someone," Emily said softly. "Come stay with me," Anna said, without hesitation. "We'll figure this out together." As Emily packed a small bag, she looked around the house she once thought was perfect. The photos on the wall, the wedding ring on her finger. They all felt like pieces of a life that wasn't real anymore. But as she closed the door behind her, Emily knew this wasn't the end. It was the start of something else. Something she wasn't ready for, but maybe, just maybe, she could survive. It was late evening when Emily heard the familiar sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Her heart thumped wildly. Through the window, she saw Michael step out, looking tired, his shirt wrinkled, hair messy, like someone who hadn't slept in days. Emily didn't open the door right away. She waited as he knocked. "Emily, please." His voice was softer than she expected. "I need to explain." She stood there, gripping the doorknob, her mind battling between anger and the tiniest drop of curiosity. Finally, she opened the door just enough to look at him. "Why now?" she asked coldly. "After everything?" Michael's eyes shifted, guilt written all over his face. "Because there's more you need to know, and you might hate me even more after this." The words sent a chill through her. What else could there be? Michael sat on the couch, avoiding Emily's eyes. "It wasn't just Claire," he said finally. Emily felt the air leave her lungs. "What do you mean?" she whispered. "There's a child," he confessed, his voice trembling. "She had a baby, Emily, a little girl. I found out only a few months ago. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared." Emily felt the room spin. She gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. A baby? This wasn't just betrayal. It was a whole other life he had built behind her back. You have a child with her?" she stammered, her voice breaking into pieces. Michael nodded slowly, tears welling in his eyes. "I'm sorry, Emily. I've made mistakes I can't undo." That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She sat on the porch under the moonlight, the cold air stinging her face. Inside her chest was a storm of anger, hurt, and confusion. Her sister Anna called. "Do you want me to come over?" she asked softly. "No," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. I need to think. Everything feels like it's crashing down." She looked at her wedding ring, the gold band shining under the moonlight. For the first time, she wondered if love was enough to survive this kind of betrayal, or if it was time to walk away for good. The next morning, Emily was sipping her coffee when she heard a car door slam outside. She wasn't expecting anyone. Peeking through the window, she froze. A woman stood at the edge of the driveway, clutching a small bag and holding the hand of a little girl with curly brown hair. Emily's chest tightened. She didn't need an introduction. This was her, Claire. The woman slowly approached the door, her face pale but determined. Emily stood frozen, coffee cup trembling in her hands. "Emily?" Claire said softly when the door opened. I think we need to talk." Inside, the air was thick with tension. Claire sat on the couch, her daughter holding a stuffed bunny, eyes wide with innocence. Emily folded her arms. "You have 5 minutes." Claire swallowed hard. "I didn't come here to fight. I came here because Michael told me he finally confessed." Emily glared at her. "Confessed? You mean after hiding an entire child for years?" Claire's eyes glistened. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never wanted to ruin your marriage. But things happened." Emily's jaw clenched. "Things? You mean lies? All of them?" The little girl hugged her bunny tighter, sensing the tension. Just as Emily was about to tell Claire to leave, Michael walked in. His face went pale when he saw the two women in the same room. "Michael," Emily said sharply, "why don't you explain this to both of us?" "Because I'm done guessing." Michael rubbed his forehead, pacing. "There's something else you need to know about the child." Claire looked confused. "What do you mean?" Michael stopped pacing, his face grim. "I'm not sure. She might not be mine." Both women froze. The room fell silent. The only sound was the little girl humming softly to her bunny. Emily stared at Michael like she didn't recognize him anymore. "What do you mean?" "She might not be yours." Emily's voice cracked. Michael sat heavily on the couch, his face pale. "Claire told me months ago that there was a chance. The father could be someone else. Someone she was seeing before me." Claire's face flushed red. "Michael, I told you because you deserved to know. But you chose to stay in her life anyway. That was on you." Emily's heart was pounding. She felt like the walls were closing in. A marriage of lies, a secret child, and now another man possibly involved. Everything she thought she knew was crumbling fast. Emily walked out of the room before either of them could say another word. Her hands shook as she grabbed her keys from the table. "Emily, wait!" Michael called after her. She spun around, tears streaming. "Wait, that's all I've done, Michael. I waited for honesty. I waited for respect. And what did I get? Lies stacked on lies." Claire tried to speak, but Emily raised her hand. "Don't. Just don't." Emily stormed out of the house, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. She didn't know where she was going. She just needed to breathe before she drowned in this mess. Hours later, Emily sat alone in her car, in front of the old lake house her family used to visit every summer. The quiet water, the rustling leaves. It was the only place that ever made sense to her. As she wiped her tears, She reached for the glove compartment to grab some tissues and froze. There was a sealed envelope inside, her name written on it. It wasn't her handwriting. Hands trembling, she opened it. Inside was a letter from Michael, but the date on it was months before the wedding. Her eyes widened as she read the first lines. "Emily, if you're reading this, there's something I need to tell you before we say I do." Emily's hands shook as she read on. "Emily, before we marry, there's something you deserve to know. Months ago, before you and I got serious, I was involved with Claire. It ended before we started dating, but there's a chance she was already pregnant when we got together. I didn't tell you because I was afraid of losing you. If this ruins everything, I'll understand." Emily stared at the paper, her chest tight. The truth had been right here the whole time, hidden in her car. Her phone buzzed suddenly, making her jump. It was Marcus. "Emily, are you okay?" Marcus asked. His voice was calm, steady, exactly what she needed right now. "No, Marcus. Everything's falling apart," Emily whispered. "Listen," Marcus said firmly. "Come stay at my place tonight. You shouldn't be alone with all this going on." Emily hesitated. Marcus had always been kind to her, but right now, she didn't know who to trust. Still, being alone felt worse. While Emily drove toward Marcus's house, Michael and Claire sat in silence at home. Michael rubbed his face with his hands. "She found the letter. It's over, Claire." Claire looked at him sharply. "You think this is just about you and me? There's more coming, Michael. Things you don't even know yet." Michael frowned. "What are you talking about?" But Claire didn't answer. She just looked out the window, her expression cold and unreadable. Emily sat on Marcus's couch, holding a warm mug of tea. Marcus kept his distance, sensing how fragile she felt. "Emily," Marcus said softly, "I know my brother made a mess of things, but don't lose yourself in his mistakes." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Marcus, I don't even know who I married anymore." He sighed. "Sometimes, the people we love the most carry the biggest secrets." Emily felt a strange mix of comfort and unease. Marcus was kind, but there was something in his tone she couldn't quite read. Back at the house, Claire finally spoke to Michael. "Emily wasn't the only one you lied to," Claire said. Michael's head snapped up. "What do you mean?" Claire slid a photo across the table. It wasn't of her. It was of another woman, smiling, holding a baby. "She's been calling me too," Claire said. "She says you promised her the same things you promised me." Michael's face went pale. This wasn't just about one mistake. It was about a life built on lies. And now it was all coming down. At Marcus's house, Emily finally wiped her eyes. She couldn't stay broken forever. "Marcus," she said quietly, "I need to face Michael. I need the whole truth, no matter how much it hurts." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then be ready, because the truth rarely comes alone. It brings consequences." Emily knew he was right. She had walked into her marriage blind, believing in fairy tales. Now she was seeing the cost of ignoring red flags. Emily walked into the house like a woman on fire. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady. "Michael," she said coldly, "we need to talk." Michael looked up, his face pale from days of guilt and sleepless nights. "Emily, I can explain." "No," she cut him off sharply. "I want the truth. All of it. Claire. The other woman. Everything." The room went silent, except for the ticking clock on the wall. Michael sat heavily on the couch, face buried in his hands. "I was scared," he admitted. "I thought I wasn't enough for you. I thought I needed to feel wanted, powerful." Emily stared at him, her heart pounding. "So you destroyed our marriage for power? For ego?" He looked up, eyes red. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Emily's laugh was bitter. "You didn't mean to? Michael, you made choices, and now we all pay for them." Claire entered the room, her face calm but cold. "Emily, I came here to tell you I'm leaving too," she said. "Michael doesn't deserve either of us. He doesn't deserve a family built on lies." She handed Emily the photo of the other woman and child. "Take this. It's proof enough that Michael was living double lives. You deserve to know everything." Emily's hands shook as she took it. Her marriage wasn't just over. It would have been a facade all along. Days later, Emily walked out of the courthouse, divorce papers in hand. Marcus waited nearby but kept his distance, knowing she needed space. She looked up at the sky, a faint smile on her lips. "Sometimes," she whispered, "you have to lose everything to find yourself again." She wasn't broken anymore. She was free.